Will Stewart from OnlineChessLessons.net, and I'm going to be looking at a completely psychotic game from the Czech Open in 2007 between Viktor Kuznetsov with the white pieces and Grzegorz Gajewski with the black pieces. So, kicking things off, this game was completely insane, and I had a good time looking at it. Kind of reminded me the way Grzegorz played with black, kind of Mikhail Tal. Reminiscence. So starting off, this is the Roy Lopez. Nothing too fancy going on here. B5, this is pretty standard book stuff. Now D6. You can also see castles. And this is the Marshall Gambit, I believe, with D5. And so after knight takes, this has been seen numerous times at the top level. And black usually, I think it's almost been analyzed that black can, usually achieve a draw or more. Levon Aronian has played some very impressive games as black in this line. And in C6, and the idea is that black has sacrificed a pawn, but he's going to get a lot of pressure against the white king. So why I wanted to look at that is because Grzegorz, with black, he sacks a pawn in a similar way, but not the same thing. So after bishop b3, he plays d6, now c3, and now castles, and now h3. So the gambit, he starts with knight a5 to kick the bishop, and then he plays d5. It's similar to the Marshall gambit in that it's similar, but the difference is that black has played knight to a5, white played bishop c2, and black wasted a move with d6, but white played h3, which will give black something to latch onto in his attack. Similar. It's a very interesting idea. So d5, and now pawn takes. Kuznetsov accepts. I don't really see any other option. If he plays a move like d3, maybe the immediate c5 or bishop to b7, whatever. Black has easily achieved quality there. So white's got to take it. So he picks up the gauntlet. So e takes, and now e4. And I guess this was Gajewski's idea, is that if bishop takes, something like this, black is going to have the bishop pair, and he's also going to have open lines to go after white's king. And also, white's going to have stunted development, especially his queenside piece is going to have a real tough time getting those out. So, instead of taking, the only other reasonable alternative for white is knight g5. And so now knight g5, knight takes d5 is going to force knight takes e4. And now we're going to see the f-pawn just take go for a jog here. So f5 is going to force knight to g3. There's no alternative. Now f4. And so now, wherever the knight goes, knight e4 seems to be the most reasonable, centralized f3. So the f-pawn just went crazy. So here I'm looking at this game, and I'm like, well, okay, black's definitely gotten compensation. White's queenside, not going anywhere, and black's already got a pretty good attack with his pawn wedge on f3. So the next few moves are pretty natural. And now knight to g3, a little bit of trickery. I guess the idea was that if bishop takes h3, white just wins with queen h5, threatening mate. There's no way to defend the bishop. So knight to g3 was a little sneaky. And so queen d6. Queen's pretty well centralized. Also, if queen to h5, I guess Gajewski was planning g6, taking control of the f5 square as well. So queen d6, good move, centralize, take control of the f4 square, for example. And bishop to e4. Maybe Kuznetsov is trying to get a little bit too fresh for his own good here with bishop e4. Possibly a better move was the immediate a4, or I kind of just like the simple development, knight d2 to e4, something like that. But the problem is knight d2, black is going to have knight f4, for example. And it's very dangerous for the white king here. Anyway, so knight d2. So that's kind of one of white's biggest problems. He can't develop this knight because the bishop needs to cover the f4 square. So he tries bishop e4, trying to pin the knight down, and also transfer the bishop to help defend the white king. Bishop b7, very logical. Now knight f5. So it seems like, okay, white's going to push back black's attack. He's knight f5. He's controlling a ton of squares in the center, but Gajewski just sacks the rook. So it's like, okay, just sack the exchange, no worries. And so now rook f8. So, okay, all right, black's got the initiative again. Rook e6, so a counter blow. Looks like white's pushing black back. A couple pieces hanging, but no worries. Well, Gajewski didn't even care about that. He sacks the queen. So rook takes f5, and now it's white's move, and black has 2 pieces for the queen. The pawn count is equal for the moment. So, okay, a little bit of an unusual scenario. White's king is naked to defense, and all of his remaining pieces have not moved yet. No development. So he tries a4. It seems logical. Again, he's still got the same problem. If he moves the knight to d2, black can move the knight to f4. And it's going to be a very, very difficult attack to repulse. So he tries a4, trying to open up the rook. Maybe he can come down, harass some of black's pieces. Well, Gajewski doesn't care about material, so he just plays bishop g3. Okay, when I first saw this move, I was extremely confused. I never use a computer to analyze anything, so no help there. And then I looked a little bit deeper. So f takes g3. The idea is very simple. Black wants to open up the rook to get to f1. So now I'm trying to think, what's his idea? And the best I could come up with, first I thought knight b3 just did it. I thought knight b3, queen takes, and then knight to e3, and there's no way for white to stop the rook coming to f1. Well, the problem with the whole line is that the knight's pinned. So the knight's pinned, no dice. It's not going to work. So going back, so knight b3 doesn't work. This knight's got to get into the attack. So then I look at knight c4, and the knight's going to come to e3. I mean, there's nothing white can do about it. So obviously, king takes g2 doesn't work in any of these lines due to the discovered check, and white's going to drop a queen or get mated or both. So knight c4, and the best that I could see is that this would end in a draw. Somehow, even though black has 1 piece for white's queen, all of his pieces are developed and coordinated. So I looked at knight d2, knight e3, queen e2, and now knight takes d2. And so the idea is just black's got to get the rook to f1. And now bishop takes, rook takes, and the resulting position is an opposite colored bishop's draw with equal pawns. This game is completely insane. So apparently, Gregor's sacrifice, I guess he probably prepared this. I mean, people usually don't play this crazy without a little bit of computer analysis backing it up. So anyway, going back, that was about a 7-move combo that led to a draw after bishop g3. So instead of that, Kuznetsov, I guess he's playing for the win. Who knows? Maybe I missed something there and black's got better. I don't think so. f3. So white plays f3. Definitely logical. He's trying to, maybe he can round up this g2 pawn and push black's attack back and finally get some pieces developed on the queen side. Bishop f4. So the problem is, with f3, white's weakened his king significantly more. Bishop f4, a takes b5. Seems like knight c4 is maybe going to be forced, but Gregor's just plays bishop takes c1. And so now queen takes c1 doesn't work because of knight b3. This is just the line I was looking at. I mean, knight b3, so forking the queen and the rook. Queen c2. And knight to e3. This is completely insane. So knight to e3, defending the rook, hitting the queen. And if queen takes, bishop d5. And now the queen is not going to be able to check to the back rank of black. And it's going to be shut out of the game. And after rook takes, this is as far as I looked. Rook takes h3. And black has 1 piece for the white queen. But white's king is not feeling too good here. So maybe Something, it's totally nuts, but this is kind of what I was looking at. I mean, maybe knight g4 check, king over, and simply rook e3. and black's gonna queen. So that was nuts. And that seems to be the key line here. So that's what would have happened if white played queen takes c1. So instead he plays rook takes a5, and now knight f4. So the bishop is untouchable due to the threat of knight e2, and now black is hanging onto that pawn. The bishop's open. Everything is flowing. So queen e1 was a try, and now bishop takes f3. Just really breaking down the doors, coming in, and now b takes a6. I looked for a better move here, and I just couldn't find one. I don't know what to do. I mean, white is busted. Even though he's got the queen for 2 pieces, and he's got a handful of pawns, his king is just totally busted. There's no way out. I mean, black is just going to play knight takes and promote. So b takes a6, trying to confuse things. Also, this is a pretty sneaky move. If rook takes, just walks into a mate. No dice. So b takes a6 was really pretty sneaky. So knight takes. Problem is it just runs into a forced win for black. Couple of checks. Knight at g1. Check. That was crazy. So now queen takes, and after rook takes a5, white resigned. That game was completely insane. Gajewski, I mean, watch out for this guy. He's completely nuts. And the reason white resigned here is that, so black's threatening mate. So if white tries to defend it, let's say queen f2, check. And now the g-pawn marches. Pretty easy win. So going back, in this position after 31 rook takes a5, Kuznetsov had enough and he resigned. So what a crazy game by Gajewski. Extremely impressive. Definitely a joy to look at. So hopefully see a little bit more from this guy in the future. So this is Will Stewart from OnlineChessLessons.net, and thanks for tuning in.